Hey everyone, welcome to episode 276 of Rush Fans Rush Roundtable. Today we're doing the penultimate track from Snakes and
Yeah.
Arrows. Oh, that's a big fancy word, I know. Be
I
careful.
learned that from Monty Python.
We're talking the third and last instrumental on the album, Malignant Narcissism. Today we have Alex, we also have Jim with us, Derek, and Randy. We're going to offer everyone to make sure you subscribe to our content. And if you feel free, please tip us on Ko-fi. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, we're going to ask everyone to support our sponsors, which will be described below. We appreciate their assistance, and we appreciate if you could support them. And then we also have a merch shop, guys. If you want to get some Rush Fans merch, we got all bunch of stuff. So now,
Yeah.
this little banger of a 2 minute and 17 second song.
Is that how long it is?
It's 2 minutes and 17 seconds. I actually checked before I started. I actually prepped.
Oh,
Go figure.
yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I know.
Oh, look at you.
I know, right?
Yeah,
Man.
Look at me go, right?
Yeah, yeah. Look at you go.
got the
All right.
receipts.
So we had decided. So this song is, like I said, 2 minutes, 17 seconds. Jim, do you have any thoughts on this as a drummer?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like this is to me, this is kind of like a bass of drum extravaganza. And when
Mm.
I heard it, it was pretty exciting. I love how it starts with the now it sounds to me, I mean, it's not just Neil keeping time on it. It's not just hitting stick to stick. It sounds like he's hitting on a stick on the rim. He's doing eighth notes on the stick on the rim and then hitting flams on two and four. Like that. And it's a cool way to start a song rather than just kind of like softly counting off and then and then Getty would start the bass thing. And it's a cool way to start that and then the bass comes in. It's just it's very unique, I think, and it's pretty fun way to do that and get into it. Yeah, the rhythm section takes over.
The
Heck
bass
yeah.
line kick. Then that bass line kicks in.
Oh man, yeah,
That is
yeah,
such a
and
that's such a cool bass line.
it is a great bass line. And I was reading because I learned how to do that. That it's
You teach
that
English, right?
math.
Oh,
So I
okay.
know. Yeah, my wife
That
teaches
that
English,
explains it
so
then.
I
Okay.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah I can count. It's pretty funny when I tell my students I can't count, and they're like, "What?" Anyway, I believe Getty's using a fretless
Hmm.
bass, right? Something he has not used. What was the last time he used a fretless?
When was the last time you used a fretless?
Didn't he?
77 Madrigal.
There
Oh
you go.
wow,
Right.
that's well, just so a couple years before this one came
Couple.
out.
So the bass he was using. I did some homework. I actually watched the
Ah,
Snakes and Arrows documentary uh,
oh,
today just to kind of refresh my memory, and it was a Fender Jaco Pastorius reissue fretless bass.
Hmm.
oh,
So
nice,
he's in the recording studio
nice.
doing lyrics, and he has his bass, and he's just playing along on it between takes. And the producer Nick really thought the bass line
Rescula
was
with
cool, and he kind of went,
the
"I like that. We should play with that." And
yeah,
he was recording it through the vocal mic, him
yeah.
just playing with it, right? So yeah,
You
Yeah, I
gotta,
love that
it's
story.
yeah, oh yeah. And it's funny. I mean, I've heard different things that, that Nick would just record stuff. And, in the studio, you got to just do that because even though
Hmm.
you're there to sort of, I guess, do a job and right, record your proper song, you're also kind of like noodling around and, getting inspiration from each other. And if you don't capture it, you're like, dude, what did you play? I'm like, I don't know. I was just messing
Yeah.
around. And like you don't remember what it was. So yeah, that's cool.
Well,
I love
obviously, Getty says
there's
he
been
does
a,
that at his home studio with Lifeson.
mm,
Makes
I
sense.
was just gonna say that's the thing I love about this story is that it's role reversal. Getty's
Hmm.
the one always
Yeah.
saying to Al, "What what
What
was
did you
that?" And
play?
then this is
Yeah.
Booge, Nick, the producer, secretly recording him. Like he
Yep.
doesn't even know the on, just killing time. And then from there we get like if you watch that documentary, the uh the Game of Snakes and Arrows, the Nick had recorded, he had brought a camera and recorded the entire recording of the album, including
Wow.
on Clockwork Angels. And so it's all home movie style footage. And he has in that documentary, you can see the moment of origin of the entire song. He had a camera on Getty while Getty was noodling, and then he had a camera on himself. He took that thing and he cut together his favorite piece into like a piece and then played it back to Getty, who had no idea it was being
Nice.
recorded at all. And you see
Wow.
Getty's face go, you hear Nick, two instrumentals. Getty's like, huh, well, it's a first.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. At that point, Nick said, would you be opposed to a second instrumental on the album? And he kind of went, no. He says, actually, that'd be a first, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a cool, just like typical musicians just noodling around, playing and just killing time. And the best thing to do is have the record button down because you never know. Then you come back, it could be a day, it could be a week later, and go, oh,
Yeah.
I remember that riff. That was cool. Let's work on that, right?
Yeah. And how many songs are just pieced together that way too, right? Like we as consumers never know that, but some songs are just different pieces that were recorded. It's like that actually fits. And then a song is born from that whole situation. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, but what a cool what a cool instrumental. Oh, and the other thing that's unique on this one is that Neil played this on a four-piece kit.
Mm.
So for anybody who's not a drummer and going, what the hell's a four-piece kit? Um, bass drum, snare drum, a rack tom, so a tom right in front of the snare drum, and then a floor tom. So those are the four pieces, right? And Neil he's played that small amount of drums on his standard size kit on certain songs, right? So like if you think of like the emotive ballads and things like that, like something like Tears, right? He actually plays less drums on different drums on Tears. And I think same with different strings. But what's unique is that he recorded this entire thing on a four-piece kit, which he normally does not do. So, sometimes he'll make a musical decision to play certain things on his standard kit, right? But now he had to make a musical decision to say, all right, how do I, what do I do with this thing? And
Well, the whole thing was that his full kit had already been put away.
yeah,
It was already gone
yeah, it was
because they were
gone.
already done recording their songs. They were just kind of doing the lyrics.
Right.
But Booge had his four-piece kit set up in the studio just to play around
Yeah.
on. And so in the documentary, Neil says, Getty's playing with a fretless bass, which is a limitation. So he says, I'm going to play on a four-piece kit, which is my limitation.
Yeah.
So the two put together the bass line, I guess, of the song. And Alex wasn't even at the studio. He had to come in later and try to fill his parts in.
Which is funny because that's not unlike YYZ as far as the idea that he was out flying his model plane and Getty and Neil were coming up with the main parts of that.
Right.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, having the stripped down sensibility, it puts you in a different mindset. So the idea that Neil's, it's not a case of, oh, I can look over or wheel over and just grab that extra tom. It's just, here I am, flashback to 1964 or something like that. And obviously we were saying that on a couple other songs on this album that you could sort of see where their return to the Feedback EP, playing those songs from their youth, kind of put them back into a mindset of, what if we do this? What if we do that? What if we have it stripped down? Because we didn't have all those effects or all those drums, when we were growing up. So what can we do without?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because, back then they were paying for their own stuff. And towards their end of their career, I am gonna go ahead and guess that they were not having to pay out of their own pocket, so to speak.
Pretty doubtful. Yeah.
But they could afford it anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, they
Even,
could afford it, and plus, what drum company does not want somebody like Neil Peart as part of their roster? I mean, any drum company would love to have him on their roster. I mean,
but
my
let's
gosh.
talk a bit about the song structure itself, right? As anyone, because I mean, I'm a drummer, so maybe, like I said, like Jim mentioned, it starts out with Neil, doing the clicks on. It sounds like you said, it sounds like rim shots to me.
Yeah.
Tick tick clack tick
So
tick.
yeah, there's basically an intro verse chorus situation.
Yeah.
There is. Yep.
So, I mean, I obviously you look at it from the guitar standpoint. I mean, Lifeson's really staying, he's remaining pretty stripped down as far as what he plays.
Mhm.
You know, not just stripped down with his setup necessarily, but it's kind of like, all right, Getty and Neil are going to town. Lifeson, I'll offer an A power chord and let it ring out for four measures. Oh, maybe I'll
Hmm.
take it up an octave, let that ring out for a couple. It's so. I mean, yeah, like Jim was saying, it's certainly the bass drum extravaganza, and you know, I mean, Lifeson brings in kind of a melodic, higher sensibility on the chorus section, or maybe a B section if we just want to call it that, and not verse and chorus.
But in the middle, it kind of slows down. It just kind of, I don't know if you
Hmm.
want to call it like it empties out. You know what I
The
mean? Like
bridge,
it's, yeah,
the
if you want
bridge,
to call it the
maybe,
bridge. Sure.
or
There's
I
no
don't know.
verse. There's no verse and chorus is really, I guess
Yeah,
maybe.
not really,
Ah,
but yeah, just
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll play this section, we'll go to another section, we'll return to a section, we'll return to a section. What about a new
yeah,
section? So yeah, we could
yeah.
just think
But it
ABC,
is, yeah. But I
Abacab
mean,
even.
yeah, yeah.
We
Habakkuk.
get the
Like,
voiceover.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
And the
yes, and
voiceover.
that voiceover is interesting. Because what's the lyric?
The actual
Uh,
lyric itself.
I'd have to look it up.
That's the one thing I
It's a
didn't
case of
Son
do.
of a
malignant
gun, man.
narcissism caused by childhood,
Wait,
I'm sorry.
more
say
or
it again.
less.
Say it again. Say it again. You kind of cut out.
Oh, it's a case of malignant narcissism caused by childhood.
Mm.
Okay, yes,
Okay.
that's
I'm
right.
going off
And
memory, but
no, I think that's right. And they got that from the movie Team America World Police, which I never
Mhm.
saw. But
Same here.
apparently I read that they're good friends with
Oh, Trey
was it
Parker and Matt Stone.
Trey
Yeah.
Parker and Matt Stone, and they were like, "Oh yeah, use it, man. Go
Yeah.
for it."
Oh
So
yeah.
they
They
put it
wanted
in.
their stuff in a Rush song too.
Oh, well, heck yeah. I mean, who doesn't,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it's
Yeah,
about
so that
halfway in the
was
song. It's at the 108 mark
yeah.
in the song. It's about
Yeah.
right halfway.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
it's in
That's
that
right.
bridge section where it just kind of quiets down a little bit. Like,
And
uh,
at that point you could take the meaning of an instrumental as just kind of you're going to town because you want to. I mean, obviously actual narcissism, especially malignant narcissism, is a real disorder that, is pretty megalomaniacal.
Hmm.
But narcissism, much like hoarding, much like obsessive compulsive, it's kind of it's a those are legit terms that entered into pop then mass culture to sort of say, oh, you wash your hands more than twice a day, you're OCD. It's like, no, 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 that's different. Oh, you're a narcissist.
right.
No, he's just selfish. No,
Yeah.
Right.
that person's a narcissist. That person's just a selfish, inconsiderate schmo. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, there's a difference. But yeah, yeah. I mean, obviously they're kind of hitting on the idea in some ways of like, yeah, we're just gonna go town on instrumental. But and I could be just way
Yeah.
off base.
No, I mean, and there's always a sense of like how would I put it? Just a little words are failing me. It's a good thing I really don't teach English. Um, whenever you hear an instrumental, I mean the anybody playing the instruments, they will kind of like stretch on their instrument a bit, right? That's sort of like the purpose. And I was looking for a term for that, but I couldn't, find it. But anyway, so they'll kind of stretch on it, and and they do here as well, right? There's a lot more fills, and they're busier and things like that. But it also, and with all the Rush instrumentals, actually they have a structure. It's not just flat out, go to town and for 3.5 minutes straight with just no variation at all. So they have a structure, they have a variation, but yet you know, their musical ability shines as well.
They basically go from just a jam session to structuring it after the fact.
Mm.
They
Yeah,
jam and
you
they come up with these
gotta,
ideas, and then they go, "Oh, hold
yeah,
on a second, that sounds really good. Let's work with that."
yeah,
And then kind of like how this
and
song came about. It was an afterthought. It wasn't
right.
even on the plan for the
No,
album. Like,
no, I'm glad it made it though.
oh, to me, it's one of their best instrumentals. It's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, for
yeah,
sure. And that section, like after that sort of quiet, I guess we'll call it a little bridge section or whatever, right, where they have the little vocal thing in there, is that's when they get into the bass and drum kind of little solo back and forth thing, right? Which to me reminded me so much of YYZ, because they do
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
as well. So it was like, oh
Short
man,
breaks. Yeah.
yeah, little short breaks that they each get, and I'm like, ah man, this kicks butt, man. This is awesome.
And Getty gets to have a bit of fun on a fretless bass for once,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, and Neil's fills are they're very interesting, and they're creative in a different way than he normally creates, right? Because he has that limitation of the four-piece kit, like a lot of work on the snare drum he's doing. Like if you look at that, right? Snare drum and hi-hat, he's doing like these hi-hat barks too. And I guess I have to explain what the hell that is. A hi-hat bark is when you hit you hit the hi-hat when it's open, and then you close it right away. Like
Yeah.
kind of like that kind of thing. And he's doing that a lot. And he does kind of go around the toms a bit, but he's kind of using it's more like hitting toms and going back to the snare and things like that. And one of Neil's heroes did that a lot. Buddy Rich, right?
Hmm.
Buddy would do things like that a lot, and Neil loved Buddy's playing. So much so that he produced two albums as a tribute to Buddy Rich. But anyway, that's another topic. Um,
But Neil's been doing
it-
hi-hat barks throughout his
oh,
career.
oh, for sure.
It's
Yeah,
second nature, but I
very
think
much so.
he used it a little bit more on this song because of what you said, the limitations of
Hmm.
Yeah,
I've only got so many toms and so many cymbals. It's like,
yeah,
well, what can I do, right? But he
yeah.
still comes up with these fills that are
Those,
appropriate.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They are very, very appropriate and incredible.
And Neil credits Spooge with pushing him toward more improvisation.
Hmm.
Um, Especially if you know the story of how the verses of The Way the Wind Blows were re-recorded at the last minute with
Hmm.
Booge
Hmm.
conducting him, and he was basically improvising to his physical instructions, and then that this all feeds into how it's changed in his last couple tours.
I mean, he admitted it during the documentary. He's more of a composer than he doesn't improvise as much. He composes, right? So Booge or Nick pushed him to kind of say, you know what, like in the song "The Way the Wind Blows," those four verses, kind of slow, kind of
Eh.
boring. And Neil was just like, so you want me to re-record all four verses? He's like, yeah. He's like, and he threw out an expletive
Yeah.
like, like F word, but it came out fantastic because he pushed him,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah, and
Pushed
yeah,
him to
good.
think, pushed him to think outside of the norm, I guess.
And yeah, for sure. And a good producer will be able to do not only that, but to know, all right, so what direction can I push this musician in that they
Hmm.
will succeed and they will shine, right? Which he did. And on more than one occasion, he did that for
And
sure.
I think this was the first album in a long time. They were at Alistair Studios in the Catskill Mountains of New York. They were all three of them were there, isolated from
The
back
world.
Yeah.
well, essentially, yeah, going back to
Yeah. It's pretty
going back to
rural out
those
there.
going back to the studio times where they were like
Yeah.
isolated and just working on
Yeah.
their music almost day and night. Uh, Alex mentioned they had booked the studio for 12 days and they were there for 5 weeks, but they got the album almost all done in 5 weeks, which is unheard of for Rush
Yeah, yeah.
because
That's
we know
pretty
look
quick.
back to, but if you look back to Vapor Trails, that took
Yeah.
almost a
Oh,
year. It was
yeah.
painful. So I think they were ready for a change to kind of go back to their roots and just get back together in the studio. I mean, they said by the time they got to the studio in November, I think it was November of 2006, they had all the songs pretty much written. They just had to
Mm,
kind of put them down officially and tweak them and whatnot. But
yeah,
they were in and out in like 2 months, which is unheard of for them, right?
yeah. That's
That
true.
that that documentary,
Well,
if you can watch it, is excellent. To just watch them in
yeah.
their element, uh, kind of see a behind the scenes look at what happens in the recording studio and how Nick really pushed them, really kind of brought them back to their roots to a certain degree, right? Like,
yeah, for sure.
Well,
like,
they'd been on a trajectory for that for a while. I mean,
Yeah,
certainly by
I
the
think
time they
so.
got to Counterparts. I mean, that's one of the things I was thinking. I kept tying Counterparts to this by the fact that it begins with Neil counting in the album, but also you had Caveman as the engineer, basically giving Lifeson some attitude, with him saying, "Oh, I need some reverb." He's like, "No, you're not getting reverb. You're just going to play it straight." And then Getty digging the Ampeg out of the trash. So it's like, hey, we can, in a perfect time because it was the early '90s and things were stripped down and more raw for the '90s, but they were able to have that, like a dozen years earlier ish, a little more than redo their childhood with Feedback and then come back with this, where it's like, all right, take a little bit of that return to youth, which I feel like this album and Clockwork Angels, the way some of the songs are structured, it almost to me as the arc from first album Fly By Night being a big change, but even the first album and how they might have played over the course of their career, it's like, yeah, they much like with Picasso, it's kind of like, yeah, it took me all this time just to play like a kid. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he said paint, but
And Counterparts was the last album they recorded at the studio, which is kind of ironic, I guess. Or maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. Ask Alanis.
Ask who?
Okay. Alanis Morissette.
Oh. Did I miss that? What did I miss?
No, just as far as if you're looking to figure out what's ironic, probably Alanis is the first.
I get it. I get it now.
The '90s thing.
I get it. Yes.
I don't have kids, but a dad joke is going to be there.
Oh,
got
Alex,
the dads giving me attitude.
You're pushing your luck. No, that's my department. Like,
it'd be funny. So you guys watching this, you'll have to comment if you got that reference and joke from Alex before we did, because it took us a description, an explanation, which is sad.
Did that allow people to roll their eyes sooner than you?
Yes.
Did that allow someone to just flip their drink and just be like, ah?
Yeah, or put their hand or put their hand on their pocket. Yeah, one thing with this tune, we talk a lot about Getty and his fretless and Neil with the 4-piece kit and how they're doing, but and I know there's some guitar players here too. So how about what Alex did? I mean, to me, he sort of had to come in after the fact and create a guitar part, and that does not sound like an after the fact anything. It sounds like it was meant. It was created that way with the three of them. It sounds like that to me. You guys want to?
He's a genius. It's like,
gotcha.
The fact that he could come and learn that song in a few days in his hotel room, and then deliver something that feels so essential and not drizzled on top.
Yeah.
I mean,
the guy, they should. I wish there were more songs in this manner, just because because the result of this song is so amazing. It's so punk, so raw. It's like, it feels like
it's a good way to say
it. A counterpart to a jam.
Yeah, kind of a punk vibe for them. Like they were trying their hand at funk back at like Roll the Bones, but it's like, oh, is this a little punk for them? A band that is most assuredly not. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, the benefit is that Lifeson had a career and a pre-career, obviously, I'm sure when he was growing up, of listening and clearly hearing what he needed to play. Because, we look at every single one of their albums, and it's not like it's, and even though oddly enough, last Christmas, we did the episode of, what songs did we think we should have solos on or stuff like that, the wish list. But it's like, I mean, literally every single solitary album, he always played the right thing because he's listening and he's so it's like, you could just assume that, he's listening to his friends, his coworkers playing on these tracks. Okay, I got to come up with something. Yeah, that makes sense. And like we were saying earlier, I mean, he gave them a lot of space in the beginning because he knew it was their song. So he just kind of had his high melody, as I was saying in our preparation with the dyads, kind of like that upper A minor pentatonic location, 12th fret type of world. And I mean, and obviously by this time he had gotten kind of sick of solos. So it's not a case of, I want to take a solo and go buck wild. They didn't have anything to prove to anyone. What does he care? For him, it's more a case of like, I'm just going to provide some ambiance, some presence, which is what he says he's been doing in Stygian Waves, and as I say, I mean, from myself
Fantastic.
listening to him and then listening to his influences or some of the albums he liked, it was, like, who is this Bill Bruford album? Who is this King Crimson? And then, oh, these guys are doing more ambient stuff, another Woodstock resident,
Oh,
David Torn, he knows his ambient stuff. So, yeah, it's nice
yeah.
that
And
Leifson kept stretching out. Anyway, I'll be quiet.
yeah. No, I mean that's interesting. You bring up those and especially those two references, right? So maybe some Alan Holdsworth stuff because Holdsworth had played with Bruford as well, right? And
Yeah.
Robert Fripp. All of Robert Fripp stuff is like it's so wacky. It's beautiful. I mean, it's incredible, right? But it's
Well,
like
I
that's
mean,
such
well,
weird crap, right? I love
that's
it.
that's where, like, in a guitar magazine in 1988, they had a like this little article with a bunch of name brand players saying, what 5 albums do you find influential? And Alex Lifeson referenced, one of the Zeppelin albums, of Hendrix, and then he had Bill Bruford, Feels Good to Me, which did have Alan Holdsworth on it. Steve Hackett, Voyage of the Acolyte, which was very
Oh wow.
influential to him during
Yeah.
Caress of Steel, and of course King Crimson Discipline.
Oh,
So
oof,
me being
yeah.
me, I had to go out and find all those albums. Who's this Bill
Oh
Bruford
yeah.
guitarist? Obviously, no, one of the stellar drummers in the world. And
Oh yeah.
but yeah, at that point, it's like, yeah, you start digging up and opening up all the other ways to play a guitar. That it's not just riffing. It's kind of, the idea that Bowie liked his guitarists like Fripp, like David Torn, like Reeves Gabrels, that they're using it as not just the instrument but a sound generating device.
Yeah.
So,
And
and Leifson's doing that now with Envy of None.
yeah.
Do we know which guitar he was using for that song by any chance?
I don't.
For this one? Yeah, I don't.
You
I,
guys,
I have no
Randy,
idea.
Derek?
I
No,
don't
no
know.
clue.
I mean, in the studio, he could have been using anything, the Les
True.
Paul, a
Sure.
Telecaster,
What let me see if
maybe
I
Oh,
can find
someone,
Because
it
I
real
mean,
quick while
because
we're
I mean, when he
talking.
was in his room with the computer, just listening to the drums and the bass together, and he's trying to kind of come up with something. He's got a guitar in his hands, obviously, but
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't know the difference. Unfortunately, I know some, but it didn't look like something that I was familiar with. But
so
I don't
you're
know.
gonna make all of us have to watch
I
the doc.
looked. Yeah.
go
Yeah.
watch the documentary. It's 41 minutes of
Yeah.
awesomeness. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Makes
Good.
you wonder if he had flashbacks of the 80s, having to fit in somewhere.
Oh, you mean
Yeah,
like with
that's
the
a
keyboards?
Oh, in the sense of
yeah.
more.
Like, like where am I going to
Less.
go with this?
How do
Yeah.
I feel? How do I feel the not feel the? There's no voids, but just add my voice to the song, I guess.
Yeah, well, I
Right.
mean, keyboards live in the same, like synthesizers live in the
It's a
same register as
sonic register,
guitar.
yeah.
So,
Hmm.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
Yep.
Getty and Neil, I'm sure he probably felt more at home with that, I would assume. Not that I can speak for him. If he's watching this and he wants to comment, please comment. We would all love it.
Are we
But
yeah, go for it. Tell us
it's like,
hey Alex, tell us what you think of yours. No, anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
the famous one, not me,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
Right.
that's right. No, but Derek, that's a great point, and I was kind of thinking about that too. And I think throughout that '80s when the synthesizers were getting more prominent in Rush's music, Alex did have to find out, okay, so where should he live in these different songs, and where does he live in the sonic register? And one would kind of almost think that by this time, it's kind of second nature, at least the
It has
things
to
that
be
I
second
feel.
nature.
It has to be second nature.
I think, but I think at this point, at this point, I think at this point in their careers, I mean, they're 30 odd years in, they know their place. They don't need,
Oh yeah.
they went through there's some tribulations in the 80s where, like you said, Alex just wasn't feeling like, I guess, not as important, or his role kind of diminished a bit. It was more just rhythm
Yeah.
almost than actual
Mhm.
more like lead guitarist. But I think at this point it was just more like, what can I do for this song? This doesn't have to have a big solo, doesn't need a big rockin' riff. It's more
Right.
just, you know what I mean? Like they were experienced enough to know
Yeah.
what each song needed. So,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
yeah.
I love
Any other?
or I was gonna say I love the anomalous nature of this tune, that it's on an album that's so introspective and soulful, and then they come up with an instrumental that is so like raw and punk, and
Yeah.
somehow and everything else is written on acoustic guitars, and this is written by the rhythm section, and
Right.
Alex just puts the gnarliest guitar part, one of his maybe ever gnarliest guitar parts,
Yeah.
I wish it was longer. That's my only like issue with it. I would have loved another minute maybe or
Yeah.
something. But in live, they do several variations live. I don't know if anyone else compared the two, but
No,
it's
didn't.
it's about 15 seconds longer because they extend that intro. Um, and
Hmm.
then Alex does more guitar fills. He's filling in, he does like little lead lines in the last quarter note of like every other bar in the first half before the
Oh,
break. Um, so it seems like they were
cool.
reiterating on it, and I would have loved, actually, man, if they had thrown that into R40, that would have been so sweet.
Oh, yeah. Heck yeah.
R4
And
R40 was tough because you had to take go through 40 years of music and pick
Yeah.
do a
oh,
two and a
yeah.
half, 3 hour set, you
You
know.
know, one would think kind of like by the time they got to like even hold your fire or something, it was like a pain in the neck to figure out, all right, what's the set list supposed to look like?
Well, I mean, with
So
each
many
album,
tunes,
I mean, for each album tour, they would play their album or most of it.
Yeah, a
You know
lot
what
of
I
it,
mean?
yep.
But
And then
still try
other
to figure
things.
out what else that we keep playing that's gonna
Right.
keep the fans happy, I
Yeah,
guess,
you gotta do
right?
the hits and the popular stuff, right?
Like Tom Sawyer was played pretty much every single concert, I think, after it came
Yeah.
out.
Street
So
Radio. Yeah.
yeah, those kind of tunes. But R40 was, I mean, I was at an R40 show coming up on 10 years here next month, which is insane to think it's
Yeah, me
10 years
too.
ago. Uh, yep, I saw them in Boston, and it was an
Nice.
awesome show. But it was, you know,
Yeah.
where I would love to have heard this song on that, but
Oh yeah. Heck yeah.
I mean, and these guys are in there. I love in the documentary how Neil explains how painful it is to play drums. So he's like, it's not necessarily that it takes a lot of physical exertion. It's the hitting of objects that don't give, like
Yeah.
hit the bass drum repeatedly, and you're hitting the drums hard. And
Oh yeah.
he was notorious for
Yeah.
hitting drum hard.
Yeah.
So after a
He
3 hour session, he was just drenched in sweat and just kind of,
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah, he
it's
looks even
it's very hard on the joints, the shoulders,
yeah,
the
it
elbows, the
is.
wrists.
Yeah.
It
Um,
is. It's a yeah, drumming is almost a full contact sport if
and the irony
you
that
know.
Alex was battling arthritis in
Yeah.
his
Psoriatic
hands,
Mhm.
arthritis.
right? Which is
Yeah,
but
Which is
not
interesting that
good.
he has the least difficult job in the band as far as he's not drumming, he's not the singer,
right,
but of course his hands had to rebel.
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
So
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
yeah.
All
I'm
right.
I'm I'm
Yeah,
just glad we got so much great music out of
Mm.
them, and I am so glad they added another instrumental to this album.
Any final thoughts on this penultimate? I love using that word penultimate.
Penultimate, the
so
last
Penultimate
but one,
song.
Great
the
word.
last but
this
one.
documentary we're talking about, it's been scrubbed from the internet entirely by some conglomerate group. I don't understand
Mm.
exactly the rights issues. Um, but if you set your VPN to YYZ, you can still watch it. It's a pro tip.
I watched it today, no problem. So it must be a Canadian thing.
Yeah,
So
Yeah,
it might
so
be, us in the US, basically, copyright laws that could be different.
yeah,
I
so
know,
I
maybe
obviously,
we'll.
watched
Yeah,
usually
the whole
that's
thing.
true. It's
the
yeah, the
fun thing to
copyrights
think
are.
of too, with the end of the discussion, Getty ended the song with a harmonic slide up the neck, which definitely a Jaco Pastorius
Yes.
maneuver. Also,
Oh
Oh
oddly
yeah.
enough,
yes.
it was in the you could also hear the one of those in the beginning of Jeremy from Pearl Jam, where Jeff Ament basically
Mm,
just hits the harmonic. You're hitting a natural harmonic where you're not, for those who aren't players, you're not pushing down the string, but then you push it down right after you hit it, and a fretless allows you to slide it smoothly towards the body of the instruments. That's what they're doing because it's just a cool sound. If you do it too much, it would be an annoying sound. But if you do it maybe
right.
once at the beginning or the end of the song, it's like, oh, And
Yeah.
that's how
you hear
Getty
that,
ends it.
you hear that note
And-
just sliding up. right?
Yeah.
And it's just
And
that's
that,
cool.
that fretless has a different quality than a fretted bass.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like you say, like that slide up, it just on a fretless it sounds so smooth. To the non-bass player over here, it sounds so smooth. It's awesome. I love it.
Any
love the
final
fretless.
thoughts before we wrap it up?
That was my thought.
Yep. No final thoughts. We're all good.
Yeah, cool.
We all let
Great
out what we
song.
wanted to
It was
talk
good.
about the song. Derek, you're saying?
Yes. One final thing. You guys were touching on the production. I really love how Neil is up here and Getty's basically down here, and then Alex is just smooth in the middle.
Mm.
Everything is just separated perfectly, where everything else is kind of pushed together.
The sound production is excellent on this album.
Oh yeah.
Honestly,
No,
like
fantastic.
in this song, the drums are nice and clear, they're crisp, and you can hear Getty's bass line perfectly, and Alex is just perfectly right in the middle mix. Like
Oh yeah.
he's not predominant, but you can hear him, right?
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Definitely. That's a
I've
really
listened to the 2007 version on Spotify, and I've listened to the compilation 89 to 07 version, which was remastered in 2013. I don't know the specifics on that, but it sounds a little bit better to me when you listen to that version and that whole
Remaster?
compilation.
Oh yeah. The
That's
the
good.
remastered
the
one.
compilation version. Okay,
Okay. Well,
I'll have to like listen to them back to back just to kind
Yeah.
of compare.
do an A/B comparison. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah,
That's,
for the
that's
CDs
great.
too.
Yeah.
And the other thing we forgot to mention is that on this album, Hugh Syme had given us some artwork for most songs,
Oh,
but the instrumentals didn't have an actual picture, I guess you want to say, or an artwork. It's almost
Oh, yeah.
it's with Good News First, and at the
Yeah.
corner it kind of says Malignant Narcissism instrumental.
Oh,
So
yeah.
is there really an image attached to it? Probably not, because earlier in the album it's the same thing with The Main Monkey Business and with
Right.
Hope. They include
Yeah.
it with the previous song on the album, right? And the
Because
artwork.
I think the artwork is geared a lot towards the lyrics.
Lyrics, yeah.
Correct.
Like and
Yes.
what
Yeah.
maybe not exactly what the lyrics say, but maybe what they make you feel or sort of the
Evoking an
message.
image, yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
evokes that image.
Yeah, like we were
Sure,
talking
yeah.
about last week with Good News First with the newspaper and the
Yes.
raven or crow, and
Yep.
so yeah, it's right wedged in. Yeah, because I'm looking at it, basically it's wedged in underneath, underneath the lyrics from Good News First. So
Correct.
so go back and
Yeah.
watch the last week's episode. We dare you.
Yeah.
If you have the
We dare you.
time.
Yeah, if you have the
watch it,
time.
watch it in parts.
Yeah.
I like to think that the artwork for the song is just one of those Team America puppets.
Yeah.
I suppose they could have done something like that.
Yeah,
but
they
Like
could have.
Yeah.
Gary fighting a kitten or something.
Missed opportunity.
Yep.
well,
We
if
have
you're
to wait
still
till
with
the
us,
30th anniversary before
oh,
that happens.
Oh,
Or the 40th.
yes.
or 40th,
Nice. Yeah.
still waiting for 40th anniversary for
Grace
Grace
Under
Under Pressure. Yeah, that's overdue.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a topic for another day. But there you go. If you're still with us, thank you very much for hanging out. Make sure you comment. Give us your thoughts on Malignant Narcissism. Is it one of their best instrumentals? That's a topic. But we encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We provide content weekly. We have different things coming up. Next week, we're going to close off Snakes and Arrows with We Hold On. And then we've got some Rye Guys quizzes coming up also. And then at some point in the near future, we're going to tackle their last album, Clockwork Angels,
Ooh.
which is going to be really
That'll be
interesting.
Yeah.
That's
it'll be fun.
going to
Big
be
one. Yeah.
that's going to be some big ones. And
Yeah.
producer Nick is back at it for album number 2. And so there are going to be some great song discussions. But until then, thank you very much for your support, everyone. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.
Take it easy.